On this 4th of July, as we enjoy our barbecues, hot dogs, and fireworks, and all the perks of being an American, let us think back to the brave tank men and tank women who won us this freedom we enjoy today, because if it was not for their sacrifices, then we would not be here today to enjoy the freedom of this holiday. So the next time you see a local tank men veteran of the Great War, take a second to stop and thank them for their service.
You gotta love shooting gun back then. Lobster's a 10 out of don't you grab it.
Fresh news from the front line. Germany strikes back. A new horror has been unveiled as Nazi Germany unleashes the terror of Battleship Zero upon the unprepared Soviets. Even the might of the strongest battleship, Maria Andreevna, is nothing compared to the twisted, inhumane horror of this new monstrosity. But as this new inhumane terror marches to Moscow, the wonder weapon of the Allied forces, the Zephyr, is ready to make its debut on the Eastern Front to save Russia. But will it be enough? Welcome, brave tank men of the Allies. We are here back a few days later than July 4th, but for you didn't go out and get fireworks. You didn't go out for a barbecue. You came in to enjoy the fireworks of Uber Invasion, issue 14, which gave us the most patriotic and probably depressing celebration on 4th of July. There was a shit ton of stuff that happened in this issue, so let's get right to it and discuss the nitty-gritties in this Uber Invasion review. So, first of all, we finally got our breakdown as to how Battleship Sieglin got Battleship Zero into the crate. And I was kind of calling bullshit on this one because it even mentioned, in Kieran Gillen's text that the people of Nazi command didn't think that they could successfully retrieve Battleship Zero after being deployed. But luckily, apparently Battleship Zero is like some goddamn malformed dog creature that Sieglin was able to get to submit to her just by hitting it once. I was really hoping that Battleship Zero would be like this mad fucking honey badger of just anger and spite, but apparently you just need to hit it enough and then it'll submit to you and imprint, weird puppy thing that just does this gurgling noise, and Sieglin has it on a leash. And honestly, this is kind of the most pulpy Uber has been. I mean, despite the fact that, Uber feels like something exploitative, very B-movie, Isla, She-Wolf of the SS. On the surface level, it kind of looks like that when you see, Claudia Sieglin in her, leather suit and her death's head, and she looks like something that's stepped out of a good old-fashioned 70s Nazi-sploitation grindhouse movie. But obviously, Uber has a much higher degree of storytelling prowess than most grindhouse filmmakers. And there's a greater degree of character work, thought, historical detail put into Uber, which is, why I've devoted, my time to spreading Uber love and talking about it with you people on the internet. But, the fact that she, has this, dominatrix, freaking necklace that she puts on Battleship Zero, I guess I was a little bit angry because, in a way it makes sense that, the way Uber works is that, for every victory the Allies have, the Axis has to get, 3 other victories. And because the nature of the thing is that if the Axis fails too catastrophically, then the story's over. And Uber is coming to an end very soonish. Kieran Gillen, I think somewhere I read that he said that, it's going to end at 21 issues. 21 issues is it. So we still got a little bit more to go, but, you definitely get the sense that things are winding down. And so it's just frustrating to see that, Germany gets this wild dog of a secret weapon, and there are no consequences whatsoever. You'd think that it would, kill a bunch of their forces, or it would be unruly, or there was, no way to submit to it, but apparently you just have to hit it on the noggin, and then it becomes, the most disturbing, meat man puppy dog you could ever ask. And I think what, makes this from becoming, true exploitation schlock is the fact that, Sieglin seems completely disgusted by it. There's a great panel of her just, looking and grimacing as she kind of pets it and gets the leash on it. And she looks like she really does not want to deal with the thing. But, there she has it, her, battleship manslave dog creature, abomination of God, that is, the last hope for Germany. So, that would have been, interesting enough, but nope, there's 10 times more details that we get in this issue. Japan continues its invasion of Russia, and we learn that in their desperation, Nazi Germany shared everything with them. So not only does Japan, have Battleship Yamato and the basic tankmen, they now have the ability to do heavy tankmen and make blitzmensches as well. And we get a look at the Japanese heavy tankmen, and I do love it how, every single, faction has their own armor. We've got, the evil men of the German heavy tankmen. We've got, the sort of brawny brutes of the English tankmen, and then the sort of pseudo-samurai of the Japanese tankmen. So I definitely love seeing the different armies and how these, different uber types are used. But apparently, despite, the fact that they have Battleship Yamato, the Japanese tankmen are in a very sad and sorry state. There aren't that many of them. It seems like, their entire attacking group is just a small convoy with, maybe one or two blitzmensches, a heavy, and some traditional tankmen. And, of course, Battleship Yamato is the big force. He's the big asset that is just able to push through. And there's this grim fatalism, as much as the Axis is kind of winning, Kyrian is continuing to build up the idea that there's going to be some consequences. The fact that the mainland is completely undefended, they're overexposed, this is a bad idea, and if there's any response to this bad idea, that Japan's going to be completely fucked. And the only reason why they can do this is because, they can't risk Germany being pushed back, because if Germany's pushed back, then it's all over. They're screwed. They can't match up. And as we know, privy to the Allies, we know that Allies have nearly 5 to 6 fully activated battleships. Or close to that. 6 battleship caliber people. They have battleship USS Colossus, which is nearly complete and still probably functional to a certain degree despite his back pains. You've got Sigmund, who is now defected to the fully activated battleship. You have USS Bluestone, USS Bravo, so that's 4 battleships, even though they're technically heavy cruisers, they're still of the battleship class and still can pack a punch. I hope we get to see them sometime. Then, of course, we have the US HMH Churchill, so that's 5. And, Maria Andreevna, that's 6. And finally, Tamara. So technically, the Allies have 7 battleships. The only problem is that they're not, all deployed at the same place. Because if, you got them all together, then that would be a wrecking ball force. So I hope we learn what's going on with Colossus and Bravo and Bluestone and, what if they're going to be shipped out to Germany to start kicking some ass and stopping, shit in Russia. So, that. And we also, not to mention those, the Maria Gulag of incomplete battleships, headed up by Oleg, I'm probably mispronouncing her name, they're going to be shipped off to face off against Japan. So I'm really, 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 really curious to see, because I always thought that, what was going to happen in Uber Invasion is that, Maria would make, because it seems like there are a lot of battleships there. There's at least, 10 battleships, a bunch of battleships, and that Maria was going to, create her own insurrectionist union, and then she was going to invade Russia, kill Stalin, and just take over for everything. But apparently that's not going to be the case. These battleships, or incomplete battleships, are going to be sent to fight the Japanese. So, in theory, Japan should stand no chance against them, but I feel like, given the fact that we know the USSR is going to pull out of the war, something's going to go horribly wrong in terms of, sending these incomplete battleships to war. But, I mean, if they're on par with the USS Colossus 1 and 2, and, you got 10 of them, then, even Yamato shouldn't be able to do much of anything against them. So, I'm very curious to see what happens, because it doesn't look good, unless Yamato turns out to not just a basic battleship, but more along the lines of Maria in terms of his activations being specified more towards Halo. But as far as we know, when they were activating Yamato to get up to the strength of a battleship, it was just a typical activation, not specialized like a blitzmensch. So we'll have to wait and see to see how that plays out. It should feel like a good crushing win for the Soviets in terms of having nearly completed battleships to just trample the Japanese opposition. But who knows? Maybe Japan, because this is a suicide run, they're gonna figure out how to use that atom bomb and that'll destroy all the Russian battleships, and that'll sort of lead to Russia, leaving the war. Because, despite the tragedies seen in this issue, it feels like the Allies are still in a good position, and those incomplete battleships. But so something bad's going to happen. They're not going to do well moving, they're going to break a few people, they're going to, be not fully working and functional when it's time for them to fight Japan. Bad shit is going to happen. There's too much space for it to be tied up that easily. As much as I want these, Russian gulag peoples to just, wipe the face of the earth of the Japanese army. So that is another interesting development, another, plot line I'm excited to see resolved. Now, next we get the big showcase battle of this issue, the Battle of Salmolesk. This is where we get to see the Allied Zephyrs applied again. And I was really hoping it would be a super, crossover with the Zephyrs, working together with Leah Cohen. But unfortunately, it was not. And here we get unveiled, the Zephyrs are used exactly like they were before. But unfortunately, apparently, the Nazis have developed an anti-Zephyr tactic, and it is devastating. It is brilliant in its simplicity and, so frustrating. It's I don't know if any of you played Halo Reach where they had the, Spartan lockdown. It's kind of like the Spartan lockdown with the Halo effect in terms of just locking down an area and incinerating anyone. Well, it wouldn't work against any other Uber, given that it's a low-intensity Halo field. They'd probably be resistant towards it. But because the Zephyrs are human normal, they just go... They just... burst into bloody bags, and it's so sad and depressing to see America's weapon reduced to nothing. But then again, Kieran Gillian has, hyped up the fact that the Zephyrs are not, the be-all, win-all weapon. They are basically, fighter jets that are designed to, take down big battleships, and they need to be used like fighter jets as, precision instrument weapon tools. But now the Nazis have an anti-Zephyr tactic, and it seems to work wonders. So sadly, nobody knew about this beforehand, but they have a perfect formation. They've got a destroyer Blitzmensch who can provide shielding to Sieglin, and then another Panzermensch behind it that provides cover to the, the Blitzmensch destroyer, and then next to the Blitzmensch destroyer is another Uber regular tankman who provides cover to the first tankman. So it's this 3-layered shield that just keeps things incredibly immune. But I hope eventually we see Patton or someone else, or maybe Stephanie come up with an anti-Zephyr tactic. Where imagine this, that they have a 6-1 destroyer throw a rock at Sieglin, so she thinks that she's getting external damage from a Zephyr. So then they trigger the lockdown, and then while they're doing that, everyone else can move into position, or the real Zephyrs can wait for them to just burn themselves out before going in. Or they, use regular tank men to disrupt the shield and leave Sieglin vulnerable, so then the real Zephyrs can, do what they want. I was really surprised that, we didn't see Battleship Zero in that fight, because I thought, oh man, how are the Zephyrs going to fight Battleship Zero? Are they going to, try and stab it to death? Are they going to, put a bomb on it? Or what are they going to do? Are they going to be able to, rip chunks of enhanced flesh out of Battleship Zero, because that's all they can do, and they'll have to, take it together piece by piece? But sadly, we did not get that, so the Battle of Salmolesk was another victory for the Nazis, and another disappointment for us as we saw America's wonder weapon not so wonderful, which is sad. And but then again, Uber is not a happy series. It is depressing. But the one light about Uber is that when the Allies do get a victory, when you do get a victory, it feels so fucking sweet. It is a real fist in the air, fuck yeah moment, fuck you Nazis moment, and I love every one of them. And I do love the fact that the Nazis aren't dumb, that they're very practical, and these are smart solutions. But I'm a little disappointed with the battle. I was hoping we'd get this Leah Cohen Zephyr combined force with Leah Cohen would be thrown at Battleship Zero, and then the Zephyrs would go fight Sieglin. But we didn't get that. We got the the crossfire tactical situation. I'm just gonna call it the Tankmen lockdown. We got the Tankmen lockdown, the anti-Zephyr Tankmen lockdown. So then we cut back to America, and we see Sigmund talking to Leslie Groves, General Leslie Groves, and he's looking over details, and Leslie gets impatient with him. It's God damn it, you kraut son of a bitch, this is better than you deserve. Are you gonna do it or not? And and then Sigmund agrees to it. So we don't know what this is. We'll have to wait later to see if he's, like, deployed against Sigmund, or if they send him to Japan. And it would be interesting if, like, you know, there's no nuke in Japan, but Sigmund is sent there, and he just, like, ravages the whole thing. And it's kind of like Hiroshima times 10. It's just this huge atrocity where he just, like, burns down Japan, and Japan is completely fucked because, you know, they can't do anything against Sigmund. So we get this weird parallel of, like, you know, since, you know, the Uber battleships are, like, walking atomic fire, that Sigmund ends the battle with Japan and forces them to, you know, withdraw from the war, or, you know, just quit, but, like, the troops they have in Russia keep going. Because, you know, that's one thing that the Allies haven't done, is that they're very reactionary. They don't attack the undefended portions of Germany or Japan. So I'm very curious to see his mission. I'm very curious to see what Sigmund does now that he's on the Allies' side. And if it's like a fuck yeah moment, or if it's kind of like a, you know, horror of war moment, since, you know, he's a Nazi, and why not give him more horrors of war moments. But, you know, I'm very curious to see what happens with Sigmund, and hopefully the Allies can use him, given the fact he's the, you know, the only fully functioning, fully developed battleship that they have, aside from Leah. And, you know, he should be able to kick ass, because he's, like, probably one of the most experienced. So it'll be nice to see what he does, and I can't wait to find out the details of his mission. Now we get Alan Turing's depression as he writes his letter to Leah. And what's interesting about this is, like, you know, he's just grim, and, you know, he's sick of looking up for ways of people to hurt one. This is a really depressing letter where he's just tired, he's lonely, everyone he knew, was friendly with, or maybe loved, is dead. He's the last of Belchley Company. He's with a company of Americans who probably don't treat him very well. They just look at him as a machine to give them new ways to kill. So it'll feel really, really bad for Alan Turing. Still better than what happened to him in real life, with the whole chemical castration thing for being gay, which is still one of the great atrocities of the 20th century. But, you know, it's still depressing and sad to read. But the interesting thing is that he says he's, you know, looking into the third codex for more methods, you know, Uber enhancements. What would be interesting is if he finds out, like, what the, you know, Project Gutenrang is, and he sees, like, the big final enhancement that Kieran Gillen is hyping up, and then he's like, oh god, I gotta warn them, and then the Nazis, like, you know, bring out Project Gutenrang, and, you know, just, it's even more horrible devastation. That would be cool and fun. But Kieran Gillen showing that Alan Turing might find something else, and the fact that, you know, he says he's looking in for this third codex, but he says he's looking into the, you know, but we see him looking at the second codex. And the interesting thing about the first codex lets you build tankmen. The second codex tells you how to find people who are tankmen susceptible. And the third codex is actually how, you know, building the tankmen. So maybe because the Nazis didn't actually, like, decode the second codex, and they just did their crude test of just, like, putting people on the stone to, you know, find people who are compatible to get the blood test. Maybe he decodes it and he finds out something, you know, huge and that, like, changes everything, in the sense that, like, it's not 1 in 5,000 that can be an Uber. It's actually 1 in 10. And, you know, more people can be tankmen activated, and he uncovers the method behind that, and that's what his big discovery is, and that somehow gets the Allies a material advantage. But we'll have to see. You know, despite the fact that Uber is, like, you know, definitely reaching its endpoint, you know, there's still a lot of fun plot threads dangling around, and, you know, Kieran Gillen did a very good job juggling these, even if, you know, we don't get, like, a fuck yeah Zephyr moment like issue 7, or issue 9 with Leah finally being able to you know, destroy shit. And now we get the meeting of the mind and the brute. The meeting up with Leah Cohen, HMH Churchill with Maria Andreevna. So basically we have two battleships who are, you know, represent the two extremes. One is completely physical, the other is also completely mental and halo effect. So they are, like, you know, the two most powerful women in the world, each good at different things, and each also kind of disabled in their own way. Maria's arm is still crippled, Leah's leg is still crippled. Although what I'm really, really want to see happen is that, like, Maria uses her incredible halo skills. I mean, if she can, like, make an arm out of thin air, then why couldn't she, like, repair Leah's legs? So hopefully next week we get an awesome hero moment of, like, Leah just charging into battle and punching the shit out of Battleship Zero as, like, Maria recovers her legs. Or maybe, Leah throws Maria up into the air, and then Maria makes a platform, and she shoots lasers down, and it's really cool. I want to see a cool team-up combo between the two super powerful ladies, because now we have two fronts. We have, the incomplete battleships being sent to take care of the Japanese, and we have Leah and Maria teaming up to take down Siegelin and Battleship Zero. So, they're close to Moscow. The next issue is going to be a huge, decisive one, and oh god, I want to see it so badly. The good news is that, we're going to it's coming in August, so hopefully what'll happen is, just like how this one was supposed to be at the end of July, and then it became the first week of July, we'll get this in the first week of August. So, fingers crossed, because I want to see what these two ladies can do. I want to see Maria help Sieglinde. And we also get the interesting insight that Maria, both her and the Zephyr commander, Leah and the Zephyr commander, heard Maria speak English, and Maria doesn't know how to speak English. So this is sort of another clue to, Maria is a different type of Uber activation that we don't quite understand, and she has this sort of psychic ability that's kind of similar to the Geltmensch, only, works in a linguistic capacity, and hopefully it'll be explained sometime later, and it'll, we'll learn, what exactly Maria is, and what makes her activation so special. So it's another little hint towards that there's something something special about Maria, something a little special that, We'll have to see, and I'm very curious to see what Kieran Gillen is hinting at, because every little detail in Uber has been paid off, every little detail has led to something, and it's all been a really tightly knit story. So he wouldn't just have that as a dumb oversight. There's a reason, there's a greater thing to it. So here's hoping that the awesome ladies get a good 3-4 pages of good fight scenes. Uber fights generally aren't very long. They're kind of quick to the point. Somebody does something and it cripples the other person, or somebody does something against something and it's crippling. But, I definitely would fight on the scale of issue 21 when Maria destroys Sieglinde. But then again, it feels like it would be a little too early to completely defeat Sieglinde, given the fact that, even after issue 15, there's still going to be 5-6 more issues to go. And I think he wants to keep her around, so something bad's gonna happen. But, fingers crossed that these two ladies can take down Battleship Zero and her, frickin' master, Sieglinde. And, yeah, it was a good chapter, 8.5. Another good issue of Uber, leaves me wanting more. Makes me wish that there were more pages. Also, Kyrian, why didn't you include the goddamn... I bought this issue twice, both physical and digital, just looking for Kyrian's, editorial letters, and apparently he replied online that he didn't get a chance to do it. I Cry Foul, we're supporting your first comic, the comic that got you into this industry, that propped you up, and you give 5,500 words to Wicked and the Divine, but we get nothing? What the hell? These are your original creations. These are the guys who got you started. This is your, 10-year project, and we get nothing? Why? I want you to, give us more details about Battleship Zero. I want you to give us hints about the future. I want you to ruin like you did about, the Geltmensch back on the original Uber run. So frustrating, but, it's been a good, we've been treated well. This has been some good stuff. And I will see you next month when issue 15 drops, as, World War II wraps up. So thanks for hanging out with me, and remember, lobsters and tennis, but don't you grab it.